Okay, this is going to be a tutorial for you on entering information and how to find things in 3M. And what I'm going to use is the information that you need for answering all of your questions from the 3M MSDRG assignment number 1. So in the future, if you want to go back and look at this, you may want to pull that up out of Web Study to take a peek at it. All right, so the first thing that it says that we need to do is the patient's sex is female. This is where you would change the patient's sex. Now what I have done is I've logged into 3m.ahema.org, entered the user ID and the password, and this is the screen that you come to. All right, so we've got female. If we wanted to change that, we would click on that drop down box and choose which one. So if we changed it to male, okay, we don't want male, we want female, so let's change it to female. Right here is where we will data enter the age. So the age is 65 according to the information that we're given. Okay. It also says that they want us to use product, DRG finder, and group or Medicare. Make sure that that information is there in the drop-down box. If it's not, you just click on that, locate it just like you do the female versus male. Same thing with the grouper. All right. Once we have that information, we're going to click continue. That brings us to the patient information file tab, and I'm just going to call these file tabs so that you'll know what I'm referring to right here where it says patient information in the upper left hand corner. All right, and it's asking us right here in the title. This will tell you what they're looking for, and we're looking for patient disposition. This is where you'll choose where did the patient go when they left. And this states that we want to choose home or self-care, so we'll point at that and click. Now this is our admit diagnosis. Our admit diagnosis is going to be either the chief complaint or the if they already know what they have and they're being admitted, it's pre-admission. You know, it's something they've planned, they may know their actual diagnosis. Since our diagnosis that we're going to be putting in is adenocarcinoma of the sigmoid colon, let's just say that our patient came in with a chief complaint of abdominal pain. We're going to type in abdominal pain. You notice it doesn't give us anything but adolescence and adoption. So that tells me that we need to go back and be even more general. So let's go ahead. And if you come over here to the right-hand side of your screen, you can see back. You need to click back so that we have nothing. And let's type in pain. Okay? And it gives us a listing of things to pick from. Read these very carefully. Make sure that they do align with what you're looking for, because if you click the wrong thing, you could end up on a bunny trail and you don't know how you got there or how to get back. So we want pain or painful. Number 2. Because nothing else fits. Process of elimination, nothing else fits. Now, what do we have that's pain or that hurts? Well, it gives us a list, and we do have abdominal here. So let's pick abdominal. Then it's going to ask us. We don't know. They're not telling us. They're just saying their stomach hurts. So we can't pick the quadrant or what type of pain or whatnot. So we're just going to pick unspecified site because we don't have a site specified. We're not going to add anything else on there. They haven't told us anything. It's just abdominal pain. Therefore, we're going to pick no additional diagnoses or diagnoses already coded. Do not pick unspecified because you don't have anything else there to choose from. All right, pick no more. That's going to give us our ICD-9 code display, ICD-9 admit diagnosis code 789.00 abdominal pain unspecified site. All right. Now that we've got that, we need to continue on. So let's go over here to the right-hand side and click continue. Now you'll notice that our file tab has changed to principal diagnosis. So now we know that our principal diagnosis is adenocarcinoma of the sigmoid colon. So let's type in adenocarcinoma. We get a choice. So there it is right there. Let's click on adenocarcinoma, number 1. Remember that this next area when you're dealing with cancers is going to be your morphology. If it is asking about a site, that is not morphology, but this is not, apocrine metaplasia is not a site. It is a cell type. How is it presenting? How is it behaving? Tubular adenoma, how is it presenting? How is it behaving? We don't know. Therefore, we're going to say unspecified. If you try to say other specified type, it's going to expect you to spell it out. If we go in here and type colon, it gives us nothing. So you need to go click your back button and your back button until you get back to this point, because these are all behaviors, they're not locations. So we want to say unspecified. Now this is going to ask you what type of malignancy is it? Is it in situ? Is it metastatic? Is it primary? What is it? We're going to say this is primary. All right? Then it's going to ask you about it. Is it there now? Or are you planning on taking it out, the tumor out, while they're here this time? Is it present but you don't know where? Is it, have you had it removed but you're still treating? Have you had it removed and it hasn't recurred? Well, we don't have anything here in our information that says that it's been removed, so we're going to say it's present. Okay. We know that the sigmoid colon is the colon. We're going to click 4. Then we're going to get even more specific. Okay, so we know it's the colon. Where in the colon? All right. And we know that it is, we know that it's in the sigmoid. We know that it's not this. If you'll notice, there are 2 for sigmoid. We have sigmoid flexure and sigmoid pelvic. Which one is it? Well, if you don't know, then I would suggest you utilize your references to try to figure that out. I'm going to tell you right now that the flexure, we've talked about this in class, is the bend. It doesn't say anything about the bend in our information, so we're going to pick sigmoid or pelvic. Now, this is going to move directly into procedure for the neoplasm. Do we have a procedure? Yes, we do. It's a colonoscopy with an intestinal biopsy. So let's go through here. Number 4 is colonoscopy. We'll click on that. And it's going to ask colonoscopy with what? Well, we did have a biopsy. We had an intestinal biopsy. So let's go ahead, look at our listings. Biopsy, look at that. So let's click on biopsy. It's going to give us a little message. This is going to be maybe a guide, could be guidelines, could be definitions, could be a CMS edit, could be anything. Read them. Take a peek, okay? What kind of biopsy was it? Was it of the rectum, the intestine, or both the intestine and the rectum? We know that he had, or this patient, she, had an intestinal biopsy. So we're going to choose number 2. Now, this is again saying colonoscopy with, and if you look right here, it says screen will repeat. That means that it's going to keep asking you, as long as you continue to put procedures in there, it's going to keep asking you, is there another procedure? Okay. Just because it's asking you for one doesn't mean you have to go find one. Doesn't mean that there's one there. It's just saying, hey, is there another one? If it is, we'll code it for you. Pop it in here. But there isn't one. We don't have any more procedures. So we're going to say no procedure or already coded, because we've already coded the procedure we did have, didn't we? All right, so we'll click 1. Procedure for neoplasm. Screen will repeat. This would be an instance where perhaps you do the resection of a tumor, and then before the patient leaves, you initiate chemotherapy, radiation therapy, something like that. That would be where you would pick this. This is also where you would do the staging if you were involved with tumor registry. However, we don't have any other procedure, so it says no procedure or already coded. So let's click that. Okay. Now metastatic sites or extensions into the colon cancer. So it's going to ask you, has it metastasized anywhere? If so, we'll code it. but it hasn't. It doesn't say metastatic, so we're going to say no or no more metastatic sites. Again, as long as you continue to add in metastatic sites, the screen's going to repeat. So you would, if it metastasized to the bone, the liver, and the lungs, you would click bone, then the screen would repeat. Then you would click liver, the screen would repeat. Then you would click lungs, the screen would repeat, and then you would click no or no more metastatic sites. At that point, the screen will stop repeating. So we don't have any metastatic sites, so we're going to click no. It's going to give us our code display. So it gives us malignant neoplasm of the sigmoid colon, that's what we've got. Closed endoscopic biopsy of the large intestine, that's what we've got. And then it's going to give us our morphology code of adenocarcinoma. All right. The next step is to click over here on the right-hand side, continue. Okay. This is going to give us, if you look, our file tab has changed to patient code summary. This is just going to give you the summary with the admit diagnosis, principal diagnosis, morphology, and principal procedure. If we had secondary diagnoses or procedures there, they would also be listed here and here. All right. Since we don't, now that we've got all of our codes to cover our information, but we want to see what the DRG is. We need to compute that DRG. So we're going to come over here to our right-hand side to these little buttons, and we're going to click compute. All right, that's going to now give us our DRG and MDC information, 376 and 006. Okay, now you would go in and answer your questions in if there were any questions. If you were doing DRG assignment number 1, you'd answer 1 through 9. Now let's look at the next steps. Now it's asking us to add the following information. When you look at your assignment information, it says diagnoses, we need to add diverticulosis of the rectum and acute blood loss anemia. So how do we do that? Very simple. Again, if you look over here on the right-hand side at your buttons, you have add diagnosis. Don't click add admit diagnosis, click add diagnosis. And you're going to enter your keyword. Well, what do we have? We have diverticulosis. Enter. Now, it's going to bring up all of this, including diverticulitis and diverticulum. But diverticulitis and diverticulosis, people get really, you've got to be really careful. So you want to make sure you click the right thing. So we have diverticulosis, which would be number 5. Okay. And it tells us it's of the rectum. Now, do we have a choice of the rectum here? No. But what we do, what you have to remember is with this particular type of an encoder, you start very, very generalized, and it funnels it down and funnels it down and funnels it down until it is at it's distilled down just like a good whiskey. It's at its perfect form. Okay, so it's going to get less and less general and more specific. So the next general above rectum would be what? Well, the rectum is part of what that's listed here. It's part of the bowel and the intestines. So let's click 3. Now, it's going to ask me, is it part of the large bowel or the small bowel? Here we have some non-essential modifiers. And what does it say? Cecum, colon, rectum. So we're going to pick number 1 for large bowel. Now, this is going to ask us, is it congenital? Is it because of peritonitis? Is there a hemorrhage? Is there a hemorrhage with peritonitis? Is there diverticulitis with it? Or is there even a mention of any of that? We don't have a mention of any of that. So let's choose 6. So now it tells us that the code 562.10, diverticulosis of colon without mention of hemorrhage. Okay? Now we've added that, we've got to add one more, don't we? How about acute blood loss anemia? So we're going to come over here to the right, click add diagnosis, and then we need to add acute blood loss anemia. So what are we going to start with? Think about it. Most general, anemia. So anemia, enter. And that's all it's going to bring up. So let's click on anemia. Now it's going to start asking me the questions. Is it complicating pregnancy? No. Is it in a newborn? No. Is it in another patient? Yes. Now it's going to come up with all the different types of anemias. What do we have? We have acute blood loss anemia. So let's look for blood loss, which is number 4. And then it's going to ask me, is it acute, is it chronic, or is it other and unspecified? We know specifically that it is acute, so let's click on 1. Is it postoperative, or is it other and unspecified? Have we done a postoperative procedure? No, all we did was an endoscopic colonoscopy. So we're going to say, no, it's other. We don't have anything, right? Do we have any other procedures? Is there a bone marrow aspiration or biopsy? Did we do a blood transfusion? Did we inject any steroids? Did we do a splenectomy? We didn't, right? So we're going to say no or no more. Remember, again, just because it's giving us this chance to select one of these doesn't mean we have to. If we did, however, note the screen would repeat until we come to a point where we would click number 1. Okay, so now we have post-hemorrhagic anemia 285.1. So now we've coded those two things, right? Now let's go to our right-hand side, okay, and let's click continue. Do you see what it did? Now it kicks us to the patient code summary again. Our file tab has changed, and it's got all of our original information, doesn't it? But now we've added in 2 secondary diagnoses of 56210 and 285.1. Now, let's change. What do we need to do to get our DRG? We need to come over here and we need to compute. And now we're going to start to see, did any of this change anything? Did any of this change? If you want to look and see, could things change? Let's see. We're going to do a little short DRG analysis. Right over here on the right-hand side, we have DRG options. So let's click on that. And that's going to bring up the listing of all of our principal diagnoses, our principal procedures, and the current the DRGs that each of those would fall into if they were the principal diagnosis. So if for whatever reason I made 285.1, the post-hemorrhagic anemia, the principal diagnosis, along with that procedure of 4525, the colonoscopy with biopsy, the DRG that we see right here on our patient code summary would become 812. It has a relative weight of 0.8162 and an average length of stay of 3.4. Now, what you would use this for would be to see, hey, if I moved that, what would be better? What would give us the optimal reimbursement, but still remain within appropriate data reporting? And currently, we actually are where we need to be, because 153.3, which is the malignant neoplasm, and it is our current diagnosis, is actually the highest weighted DRG, is it not? But let's say we wanted to change it. If we double click that, notice it has moved your 285.1 to your principal spot. Now, you'll see a little hashtag here. You see an asterisk. If you are not sure what those things mean and you forget, let's go right up here to help and click on help. Okay? And it's going to tell us contents, support, what's new, product tips, etc. So you can start looking at things and it will give you information. So we want to look at, where is it here? Well, it doesn't look like it's in this one. So let's close that. Go back up to help, and I would say contents. And well, it gives us the same thing, doesn't it? preparing for, actually let's close that and try, do they have an index here? Well, let's go back to contents and let's look for coding and grouping, begin a coding session. You may have to do a little bit of looking. But if you, here we go, if you look in the glossary, it will give you information. Grouper edits, what the different things that you're, what the different things that you are dealing with stand for. And I would go down until you see a listing of what all of those little symbols mean, if they have it. Doesn't look like they have it. So let's look here. Symbols used in CRS. I found this under the help section in the contents, introduction to the CRS software at the bottom, symbols used in CRS. If you click on that, this will tell you what all those little symbols mean. So we have a hashtag, which means on the summary window and on printouts, codes marked with the symbol, with the hashtag symbol, are complication or comorbidity, codes that do not affect the DRG assignment. So that's telling us that it is a comorbidity or a complication that's not going to affect anything. All right. Now, what else do we have? We also had on here an asterisk by our principal. So let's see what that means. On a coding window and on printouts, the asterisk draws attention to certain lines. In the summary window, it is used to mark the principal diagnosis, mark the diagnosis to indicate CC codes that influence the DRG assignment, mark procedure codes that affected the DRG assignment, and mark CCMCC codes that, when also flagged as a hospital-acquired condition or a hack, could have possibly demoted the DRG assignment because of the hack flagging. So you want to make sure that everything's reported. And then look at that. Again, I found it under, you may want to just pull this up when you first start it. I found it under help. Found it here under help. I went here first to help. Then that brings up your system library contents. You're going to go to introduction to the CRS software and then symbols used in the CRS, and this is the page you need. Okay? All right. So here we have this situation. Now, we want to change this back. We want to move 1533 back to the principal diagnosis position. Easy way to do that. Point at it, click on it, and drag it up. And you see it changed to a little fist there? You see the little fist? Drag it up and just drop it right there on top. It switched it. Do you see that? It's all switched. Now let's say we wanted to delete a code. All you need to do is point at that code, right click, and come down to delete codes. You can also see there's move to principal position. There's also where you can point at it and view the reference. So anywhere there is something in the ICD-9 CM Integrated Codebook, and there is something in the coding clinic for that particular code. So if you're ever wondering and you're not sure what, you want to just make sure you're not missing anything, might be a good idea to just go to view reference. So again, you point at it, right click, come down. You can either delete the code, that will remove it, or you can go to view reference. All right. The last thing we want to do is that we need to talk about, and you don't necessarily need to talk about it for this 3M DRG assignment, but this is something that you will have to do in the future for your coding homework, and you have to do all the time anyway, or POAs, present on admission. We've done these before. So the way you assign present on admission in 3M is across the top here on the right hand side where you have all of your icons, your reference stack book, you can print. You are going to see a purple box right here that says POA and it's slanted. Click on that. It will bring up this pop-up window, and you can then designate whether it is yes, it was present on admission, no, it wasn't, it's unknown, it's clinically undetermined, or it's exempt. You need to pick one of those for each. So we're just going to say yes, it was present on admission. It's clinically undetermined. Yes, they had the diverticulosis, and we can't really tell. It's unknown whether or not they were bleeding. And it will assign, if you look, those POAs right there to the left of your code numbers. Okay? Now, you're all done. You want to move on to the next patient or make some changes. All you need to do is go right here to next patient. Click on that, and it's going to bring you back to the patient information screen, and you can start all over. Okay? So that's kind of a short tutorial on how to use it. If you have any questions, shoot me something in the help me forum. All right?